So last night was an interesting night. So yesterday the wind blew southeast all day long. We had a storm. It was raining and it was fine. And we went to bed and the wind had died. And then, I don't know, at like 10 o'clock or something, the wind picked up again. It was southeast again and was raining. And it did that for a couple of hours, and then all of a sudden it switched from southeast to west and northwest. Not west-northwest, but west and northwest. So it was gusting from two different directions, kind of like rotating between the two directions when it was gusting, and it was blowing. And I think it was blowing northwest, but it was, gusting from west and northwest. And apparently, because it was high tide, we only had 4-to-1 scope chain out, and I guess the holding wasn't good enough, and that lack of extra chain out was just enough for us to drag. So we dragged for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we dragged quite a ways down. Despite the fact that we've been here for days and days and haven't moved, that bit of wind, it was only like between 15 and 20 knot gusts, I think, was enough to drag us quite a ways back. So we ended up dropping more chain and got to like a 5-to-1 scope, and that was enough to actually dig the anchor back in and hold us for the rest of the night. But that was pretty crazy. Like when we dropped anchor here, we had 5-to-1 scope out, but it was like lower tide, and then we sat on that 5-to-1 scope between 5-to-1 and 4-to-1 based on the tides. We sat on that scope for days and had no problem, even with the southeast yesterday. So it blew southeast from like noon until 8:30 straight, and it was blowing like 15 knots straight, and we had no issue. And then of course at 1 a.m. we spun around because the wind changed, and all of a sudden we're dragging. So we didn't get very much sleep last night because of that, but we did end up hooking back up, which was great. So Logan took Max to shore. When he's back, we're actually going to leave this morning and we're going to head to Thetis Island, and fingers crossed we didn't drag into anything last night when we were dragging. I honestly didn't think that little bit of extra chain would make a difference, but clearly it does. So now we know. We shall forever now put as much scope out as we need for high tide instead of for whatever tide we're at the time. So yep.
I'm Taryn, this is Logan, and this is Max. Join us as we live and sail in the Pacific Northwest on our 40-foot steel sailboat.
Third time's the charm. We're finally leaving. It's a nice little spot in Ganges, but we've been here for 4 days, so time to head to Thetis Island and then Nanaimo, and then we're off the boat for a few days doing our last bit of work before the summer and before we cruise all summer long.
Tired?
Yeah.
I could use a coffee.
Hint, hint.
We motored our way to Thetis Island, feeling a bit too tired still to worry about raising the sails, especially because the wind wasn't in our favor. We chose to head to Thetis Island because neither of us had been there before, but we had heard good things about it and its marina. Due to travel restrictions, the dock was nearly empty and we had our choice of spaces. We headed out on an adventure to see if we could travel up a dredged channel that divided two of the island's bays.
So we have high hopes of going through this dredged channel ahead of us. Apparently at high tide you can get through it, but it's not looking good for the dinghy right now. It's super narrow, so this might be the end of the road. Also, we can't really beach anywhere here because it's so oystery. Yeah, that's it. It's too shallow. Did you hit stuff?
A little bit.
There's a crab.
When that plan didn't work out, we walked to the other side of the island and found a beautiful beach, but it was also covered in this stuff, which we hadn't seen before. If you know what it is, please let us know in the comments.
To leave Thetis. We're heading to Nanaimo today because I have a deadline. I gotta be back by Friday. And it's Wednesday and we need a day to just figure our lives out. So we are just heading back straight into the wind. We are heading northwest. The wind is northwest. And it's blowing, I guess, about a steady 10 knots it's supposed to be, with gusts up to 25. So it's gonna be an interesting sail. It won't be a sail probably, it'll be a motor because we're on a timeline, but that's how it goes, I guess.
We motored out expecting to have a rocky adventure, but sure we could make it to Nanaimo.
Well, we didn't make it to Nanaimo, but we made it to Ladysmith. So we left Thetis Island with the intention of getting to Nanaimo through Dod Narrows, and we got out into the water and realized that we had 10 more knots than was forecast against us. And we didn't have our sails set up properly to actually sail, because I don't know why. We just were not prepared like we should have been. And we got out there and we were only able to do 3.8 knots when we should have been able to do 6 because we were hitting straight into the wind. And we needed to time Dod Narrows at exactly 4 o'clock, which we gave ourselves however many hours we needed to get there at 5 knots. So instead of doing that and beating into the weather and then still missing the current through the Narrows, we just decided to head into Ladysmith. So that's what we did. And then we disembarked for a few days to go do some errands and get some stuff figured out. And now we're back on the boat. So tonight is our last night on the dock, and then tomorrow we're leaving, and we're either going to go anchor out somewhere in the little inlet here, or we're going to try to head to Nanaimo or another Gulf island. We'll see kind of how the weather is and how things are going. We have our rigging actually set up so we can actually sail when we go out. But yeah, so things did not go as planned. We changed our course. We needed to head to the main island here, Vancouver Island, so that I could go and work up island. We couldn't stay at Thetis. We needed to actually come over here. So that's why we ended up in Ladysmith instead of just turning around and going back. It was a bit of a stressful experience. Probably didn't have to be, but it just ended up being that way. Like always, when we go out on the water, we learned more stuff about what we should or shouldn't be doing, and about ourselves and our teamwork and what we need to do and not do. So your mental state just has so much to do with how well a trip goes. And we've been traveling, or had been traveling for, 3 weeks non-stop pretty much, and dealing with very grumpy, miserable people along the way in a lot of places because of just the stress that's happening from COVID. It all kind of compounded to the point where when we made this trip over, we weren't in a very good headspace for dealing with weather that was not agreeing with us. And it wasn't dangerous, it just kind of, because we were already tense, it just felt worse than it would have if we were in a good headspace. Both Logan and I have issues with depression and anxiety, and when we're already kind of in that state, and then things in the present moment are also kind of contributing to that feeling of not necessarily being safe, or that things might go wrong, it just makes the situation so much worse than it needs to be. So we're learning that through our trips as well, that we need to work on that and work on managing kind of our emotional state before we go out on the water. Lots of learning, definitely lots of learning going on. But we had a good weekend, got some stuff done. I shot my last wedding of the summer, or the year, before we go sailing. So now I just need to finish editing that wedding, and then we are off for 4 months to go travel and enjoy the outdoors. So we got lots of time to learn the skills that we need to learn. Most days we're up for the challenge. Some days it really doesn't feel like it, but most days I think we're ready, we're here, we're showing up.
Before we left, we explored the area right outside of the marina a little bit. You might remember back a few videos, we showed you pieces of a steam donkey that had blown up in the forest and killed one person.
Steam donkey is what they used to use for hauling logs out of the bush.
Well, this is what they look like whole. Ladysmith has a long logging heritage that is still part of the community, and displays like this one give people the opportunity to learn more about the history of logging on Vancouver Island.
Not leaving that early. Okay, so slack tomorrow is at 9. And then what's the next one?
4 o'clock.
Okay.
10 to 4.
So we're just getting ready to leave now. To leave Ladysmith. We did a smart thing today and actually checked the Environment Canada marine weather forecast, and that one seems to be a lot more accurate than the apps. So we're supposed to have no more than 20 knots in the strait, so it should be even less than that here, and we should be able to sail downwind. So yeah, today's actually a good day to leave, I think. It's raining because it's a southeasterly, which always brings rain. So we're all decked out in our wet weather gear.
But I'm still not wearing shoes, so
I will be wearing shoes.
we're actually gonna have the current going with us. Should be a nice day.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get to Nanaimo today. We might end up at DeCourcy or one at Ruxton Island like we kind of looked at on the plan yesterday, but the goal is Nanaimo.
Yeah.
And if the wind actually holds like the forecast says, then we should be good, so.
We left the marina not sure what we would be in for. As soon as we left Ladysmith Bay, we had wind in the right direction to raise our sails. We were a bit worried about how much wind would be out there though, so all we lifted was the staysail. Not long into the sail, we decided to bring out the jib so we could get some more sailing power. This was also our first time sailing with the staysail, so we were really excited to try it out.
We are sailing downwind on a broad reach right now with about 15 knots of wind, give or take, when it decides to quit or when it's gusting a little bit. We haven't had like crazy gusts today, so usually we have gusts that are like anywhere between 5 and 10 knots more than it's blowing, but I don't think we've had gusts more than 5 knots more than it's been like blowing, so it hasn't been too bad for the gusts. We've got our staysail and our headsail up. We didn't put the main up because we just wanted to play around with the staysail and we weren't sure what the weather was going to be like out here, so we just didn't want to have extra sails up because of our skill level, not because it wouldn't be good. So yeah, we've got those two up. They've been great on a beam reach. Downwind right now, it's a little bit rolly, and I'm not sure if that's because we have so much headsail up and we have no mainsail up, or if it's just the boat or what it is, but hopefully next time we're downwind sailing we'll actually have the main up too, and then we can kind of test that out a bit more. We left at noon thinking that we would have enough time to kind of play around and we'd probably get there early, and we are definitely on course for getting there early. We're probably going to be there about an hour early, which means that we're going to have more current against us or with us, whichever way, than we probably want, but we'll see. We might wait it out, or we might just go through with a bit of current. I gotta check the chart. I gotta see how much current's supposed to be with us when we get there. Having a good day still. It's a little bit rainy, but it's not too bad. Pretty overcast, but it's beautiful out still. It's just a west coast Pacific Northwest day.
We had wind that varied as we passed islands and channels, but it generally stayed around 15-ish knots and mostly in the same direction.
time.
Gorgeous day. I love this. The water looks so good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And all the islands, it's easy to judge distance because they have definition from the rain falling in front of them.
Yeah.
When we were fairly close to the Narrows, we decided to drop the staysail and see if we could slow down a bit.
I think we're doing good anyways.
Yeah.
Just grab it. Yeah. Straight up the... Woohoo! Nice.
Wasn't too bad.
No, not bad at all.
Yeah, I don't think we need a furler. That was easier than furling.
No, I was a little bit worried about that, but it just dropped.
So we are almost at Dod Narrows. Dod Narrows is still running at 3 knots. It'd be with us if we were to go through it, but we're just not comfortable going through it at 3 knots because we're not sure if we'll be able to actually control the boat going through it at 3 knots, and it's really narrow and janky. Narrow and janky. But if you come out here, look.
We have 4 boats, 3 boats ahead of us.
There are boats absolutely everywhere out here right now. All of us are coming through the Narrows at the same time, but we're all early. So we are just bobbing around at 2.5 knots right now. We've got a guy behind us sailing with just his head sail up, and he's still going slower than we are. And there's just
19 boats.
Holy crap, 19 boats, that's insane. Wow. So the power boats are powering ahead of us and through the Narrows because they can do that.
That one sailboat's going for it.
Yeah, there's a sailboat going for it. At 2.5 knots we might be fine. So we kind of just want to...
Okay, I just didn't want to be the first one through because that definitely doesn't mean good things.
Yeah. We've just never gone through the Narrows when there's actually any kind of current going on, so it's going to be interesting to see how it is, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
By this point, we had both sails rolled in and were just bobbing around in the water, but we were still moving at 2 to 3 knots.
We are going through Dod Narrows. We're doing 6 knots at just above an idle. It's running around 3 knots-ish.
And we were doing about 7. The passage through the Narrows proved to be not much different with the few knots of current than it was with 0 current, and we seemed to have worried for no reason.
So what was our top speed?
9 is what I saw.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was not nearly as violent as I thought it would be. I think when it's going the other way through Dod Narrows is when it gets worse.
Could be.
Yeah.
As soon as we were on the other side and clear, we brought the head sail back out. We were able to sail most of the rest of the way to Newcastle, where we picked up a mooring buoy to hunker down for a few nights.
Sweet, we made it to Nanaimo without incident. That was like really smooth and awesome, and we got to sail almost the entire way, which was wicked. Yeah, almost the entire way on one tack too, which is even kind of cooler than that. We are in Nanaimo at Newcastle again, and our plan is to be here for about a week. We've got to get a new outboard motor, do some provisioning stuff. Hopefully our fridge comes in. So yeah, there's a list of things that we need to do while we're here, and then we're going to start heading north.
Join us next week as we finally get a dinghy motor that takes us places and get back in the water with a snorkel. Thanks so much for watching, subscribing, and commenting on our videos. We really appreciate you being here.